Good morning. This is Faith in Our Hometown, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin. And now, here's your host, Father Jay Friedel.
Well, good morning. Happy Sunday morning to you. Thanks for joining us for another Sunday morning on Faith in Our Hometown, our weekly discussion about things that matter to us as people of faith here in the greater Joplin area. This morning, I hope we have a really entertaining show for you. Several months ago, I started to encounter a man who told me that he did motorcycle ministry. And of course, my reaction when he told me that was, what in the world is motorcycle ministry? So if you have no idea, like I had no idea, what motorcycle ministry might be, then you need to stick around this morning because we're going to talk exactly about that. We're going to talk about sometimes groups that might look or seem frightening to us, but yes, those people need ministry too, and those people do ministry too, which I find is going to be a little bit surprising to many of you out there. So stick around. We're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute, but let's stay tuned to talk a little bit about motorcycle ministry when we come right back.
I have arthritis in my knees, and it was just excruciating. I wish I would have done something sooner. I found myself not able to go up and down stairs, which is bad because we realized we were going to have to sell our house. We decided just to take the worst one first, and we did. I was back to work in 6 weeks. 6 months later, I had surgery on the second one, and I'm back to work in 5 weeks. And I was a little scared, a little apprehensive, even though I knew everything that was going to happen. But I was just impressed. Life is short, and I waited. I think I waited too long.
Well, again, thanks for being with us for another Sunday morning. My guest this morning, Bull Westley, who does motorcycle ministry. And again, when we met each other a few months ago, I was just like, well, tell me more about that. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us a little bit about how you got going in this ministry that you call motorcycle ministry.
Okay, well, I was raised into this culture. And when I say culture, I mean that literally. Being a biker is a totally different culture than the one most of us live in.
Okay.
And I'm from Los Angeles originally, moved out here in 2001 to go to school, get my degree to be a preacher.
There you go.
And
so I'm assuming you went to OCC?
Yes, I did.
There you go. All right, yeah.
And I loved the area so much that I decided to stay.
That happens a lot around here, doesn't it? Yeah.
Got involved with a really good ministry and been doing it ever since.
Okay, so what what is biker culture then? Tell me a little bit about that. Because you say it's a different culture. So how is that different for everybody? Because I want everybody to kind of get a little more familiar with it, so that they're not scared of it necessarily.
The best way to describe biker culture would be it epitomizes everything we're taught as kids about respect, being your elders, honor, integrity. You can almost think of it as a knighthood.
Okay.
Each club, not a gang, a club, is a knighthood serving a certain king or a certain realm. If two knights got together from two different realms, they would fight. But if they get together in a field and they parley, go through the customs, the formalness, introductions, respect, then they can talk. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of what the biker culture is like. And if you don't observe the forms, one, they won't listen to what you have to say, and they won't respect you. So, but if you go through the forms, then that's the entry into the kingdom.
Okay.
Nice,
sure. Sure.
Right, and then they'll listen to what you have to say.
So where do you think the bad rap comes from? Where do you think the bad reputation comes from?
Mostly misunderstanding and ignorance.
Okay.
And I mean that in the literal sense. If people learned about it, it wouldn't be as scary. Bikers look generally rougher because they have lived a little rougher life, most of them. And they dress the way like a knight would. They put on their armor, and they always wear it when they're on their steeds. So a lot of it's more militaristic. In some senses.
Sure.
So we look scary because we have beards and tattoos and chains.
I got a beer, but I don't look so scary, I don't think. I mean, I so,
Looks
there
wonderful.
you go. But yeah.
But they're just regular people. Once you go through the process of getting to know them properly.
So just learning how to talk to people.
Learning
in
how to
some
talk
ways.
to them, right?
Because I mean, I mean, growing up, reading books and doing those things, I love that, I love that idea of, the culture of knighthood and those kinds of things. But I got to say, honestly, I've never thought about it in quite that way.
Well, in the military how they salute,
Yeah.
which is from the old custom of raising your visor. Bikers do the same kind of thing when they're on the road with the wave. That's kind of like a salute to another biker. And we recognize who we pass on the highway. And if someone doesn't salute us, we recognize that person and we think, well, pay attention to the next time. And if they keep on not saluting, because that's really what it is a salute to the way of life.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a rep. People, if you don't salute them, your brother is going down the road, then you don't get the help or respect you need down the road if you encounter a situation.
I'm just going to tell you one of my favorite. This is one of my. It's a good memory in the midst of some horrible things that were happening again post tornado, and we were doing a burial from St. Peter's for a dad and 2 kids, and we had a little bit of a rumor that some of the nastier protesters that were going to show up and say that the tornado was because God didn't like us or something like that. And everybody was just worried about everybody, them coming and protesting the funeral because we just didn't want anybody, messing up the grief that this particular woman was going through, having just lost her husband and her kids. And God love them, her dad and mom, and I'm just going to mention the little girl's name because they named her Harley, okay? And I mean, that was her name. And God love her, because they had some of that culture. I mean, it's just they were a little bit part of that, and they were bikers, and so it was very interesting to me that on the day of that funeral, all the bikers showed up, and they showed up as an honor guard. And I'm just going to tell you that on that day, a culture that I didn't understand made a lot of points with me, just simply because they were there to be loving, they were there to show respect. They were there to honor these people who had fallen to this, force of nature, and they were there to make sure that nobody was going to come and intrude upon the grief of this particular family. And on that day, I got to tell you, I just had a soft spot for some of the motorcycle culture in Joplin, from that day, and also from the Kansas side, because many of the folks were from over on the Kansas side of the border as well, and they escorted us, because we did the burial actually later that day over, in Kansas, and so, they escorted and made sure that everybody got over there in one piece and did their thing, and I was very impressed that day.
And you said it even in that little bit there, respect, honor, protection, things that, for all intents and purposes, a knight would do. One of the groups, and you can't see it now, but my vest on the back says Patriot Guard Riders.
Okay.
And this association in particular will go to funerals and will go to, any place they're needed to block off those protesters, which are usually from the Westboro Baptist in Topeka, Kansas.
I wasn't even going to give them that much. No. I wasn't even going to give them any airtime, but that's okay, but yeah.
And we will stand in lines, hold the flags, and turn our backs to them and completely ignore them so that they can't intrude upon the grief of a grieving family.
Yeah.
And bikers, all bikers, I'm going to say, this is some generalization here, bikers care about kids. Bikers care about family, the family unit.
Yeah.
And great respect for anyone who suffers,
yeah.
Especially kids and family members. So, yeah, they'll come out as an honor guard, just like a knight would ride in a column before their, liege or whatever,
right. Yeah.
and to show respect
Yeah.
and to keep the crowds from disruption.
Well, and I will just say that was one of those days where I will always have a soft spot, for that reason. Now, let's face it. You and I both know that yes, there are some groups that are out there doing things they shouldn't be doing. It's like there are all kinds of Catholics out there who do things they shouldn't be doing, and any other group the same way. So, having said that, I know that not everybody is the knight in shining armor. Every once in a while, you get a few black knights too. Okay, in terms of the ones that are trying to disrupt or do whatever, and that's okay. But let's talk a little bit about about motorcycle ministry. Okay, so how did you get started in this? So how did what does that look like? I mean, I know what it looks like when you do my church, but what does it look like when you're doing motorcycle ministry?
Well, after I became a Christian in the early 90s, I realized that God called me from this lifestyle and that I could best serve him by continuing in my lifestyle, but with him as the focus point.
Okay.
And so a motorcycle ministry is a commitment to life. You're not saying, okay, I'm gonna do this for a couple of years and see if I like it. If you commit to a motorcycle ministry, you're probably committing at least 10 years of your life.
Uh-huh.
And you find a group that, like you find a church, that has ideals that you like and speaks to the issues that you can stand behind. And you start hanging around with that group. And so you're known as a hang-around while the group gets to know you. At some point, 6 months to a year after hanging out with these people, they'll say, would you like to be a prospect for us? Prospect is, well, like it says, you're a prospective member. So what you do then is you ride with them to rallies and to events, and they get to know you, and the community around them, the other clubs, get to know you and see you on your bike with your club, see how you respect them, see how you operate with them. And another period of time could be anything from 6 months to, in my case, 2.5 years. I was not perfect. Then they'll make you a full.
Join the club, brother. That's all I can tell you.
They'll make you a full patch member, which is, you see the guys with the patches on their backs, the one in the middle, the top rocker, the bottom rocker. That's a full member. Instead of a man at arms, you're now a knight. And then you have all the rights and privileges of that group.
Now, there's a whole nother show in this, but we'll do this at another point in time. But I mean, that is the way most groups do types of initiation. So that's not unusual for any group that does. So Greek letter organizations. I mean, even the Catholic Church has got its rite of initiation that we take somebody from the outside and you bring them to the inside, and so everybody serves their apprenticeship, and does their thing. So yeah.
Well, that was kind of my point, though, because a lot of people see bikers as a motley group of troublemakers. What they don't realize is it is very much a system with a process to go through. And so if you don't understand that, you interact with that biker in a way that's inappropriate because you don't understand the system they're coming from. But either way, I got involved with the group. The group was Covenant Motorcycle Ministry, one of the best groups in the area for ministering the gospel to bikers in the biker community. And then you just go on missions. You go to rallies to raise money for kids. You go to raise money for battered spouses. You go to raise money for really any good cause. All bikers, to a degree, are charitable. Mm-hmm. They may not look charitable, and they might react differently, but they want.
But they're people with a cause.
Yeah, they're people with a cause. Even the ones that the bad gangs, at the core, they all have respect and love at their core. And if you, like I said, if you talk to them in their language, you get through to them. And that's what being a Christian biker and a biker ministry is about. It's about gaining the respect of that culture so that you can then witness to that culture. And they see you on your bikes, they see you with your tattoos or whatever, your past, but they see you bringing a different message than the other bikers out there. But because you've gone through the process, because you're properly vetted, they respect you. And they'll listen to what you have to say.
Well, you can always challenge something better from the inside than you can from the outside, if you ask me. And so let's hold that thought for a second, because we're going to be right back after a quick break. My guest this morning is Bill Westley, and we're talking a little bit about motorcycle ministry. This is Faith in Our Hometown. Don't go away. Stick with us.
You're watching Faith in Our Hometown on KSN TV, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.
So again, thanks for joining us for another Sunday morning of Faith in Our Hometown. My guest this morning, Bill Westley, and we're talking a little bit about motorcycle ministry. All right. So in terms of this, you mentioned a few things, like charity, and I understand how you do some of that. So, some of the raising funds, everybody raises funds for, different causes and things like that. How do you do the preaching part or the churchy part or the rallying part? How do you do all that?
I'm glad you asked about that. Again, if you're inside the motorcycle ministry, there's a way you do it. And if you're outside of motorcycle ministry, just a layman like you at a church,
Oh, yeah.
the approach is relatively the same. With a biker, like with anybody, well, with a biker especially, I should say, like I said previously, you go through the forums. So when you meet somebody, maybe it's some big scary fella named Destroyer
Bull.
or whatever. Bull, yes.
Yeah.
You know, you walk up to them and you say, hey, my name is Bull. I'm from so-and-so chapter from so-and-so club.
Okay.
And then they'll say, hey, my name is Destroyer or Bull from so-and-so chapter from so-and-so club. Okay, now you now introduce yourself to them so they can start talking. The thing you don't want to do, and a lot of Christians, and I see where they're coming from, because Christians are about love. But Christians will walk up to a biker, throw their arm around them, hey, how you doing today, brother? How you doing today, friend? You've already broken some rules. You know, you can never touch a biker without first introducing yourself to a biker.
Okay.
Good
to know.
A lot of times at rallies, they'll go talk to the women, because women are easier to approach than men. You never talk to a biker's wife without first introducing yourself to the biker and asking permission to talk to his wife. You've already broken the rules. See, it's all about rules in this community. More rules you would think that, you know, for this biker community than you would suppose, since they look like unlawful people. You know, so.
And again, we're trying to break down the stereotypes this
right.
morning, because I mean, yeah, it can be intimidating. Yeah.
Right. So introduce yourself to them, and then start talking, but always do it with respect. And like I said, yeah, respect. And when you're talking to a biker, they don't want to hear about the candy-coated version with the fluffy pink Jesus who loves everybody, forgives all their sins. They want to know how it relates to them and
I love it.
And how it
I think
affects
that's
them.
the first time I've heard those two adjectives referred to Jesus were the fluffy pink Jesus. But I got it.
Okay,
And I'm actually, I understand what you're trying to tell me, I think, but our listeners might not. But
Okay.
I like this. So yeah, but you're, in other words, that kind of like buddy Jesus and all that kind of good stuff. You're right. I'm not really fond of those either. But yeah.
Because bikers live a rougher lifestyle and they're more on the streets, more in the communities, you got to preach to them messages that they can relate to. Prodigal son, anything from Paul, because Paul was worse than any biker you've ever met, and then he became.
It is so true.
Right.
I never thought about it that way before, but it is so true.
Right.
Paul was like, the ultimate, like, there is the way to do this, and you're going to do it, and you're going to do it. Yeah.
Paul slaughtered lots of people. Then he got the encounter with God on the road, which bikers can relate to. The road is the big thing for bikers.
There's some great metaphors in here for you guys. I like that.
Right, and if you use them properly, then the biker can relate. If they say, well, hey, you know, first of all, this guy's respectful, he's honoring me, he's meeting me on my ground. And then you were talking about messages they can relate to. A troublemaker who became a good person, a murderer who became a savior, a son who took all his inheritance and ran out to the world and partied it and lost it all in disgrace, but then being welcomed back. These are things bikers can relate to, because for better or for worse, a lot of bikers have lived a rougher lifestyle. A lot of drugs, a lot of violence, a lot of hate crime stuff.
Let me get in here for a second, okay? Because this is the part where I sometimes have trouble, because you've talked about chivalry and you've talked about the noble side of things. How is some of that the noble side of stuff? I mean, so I'm just saying, it just seems like there's a little bit of, and not that I'm not, and so please don't hear me wrong.
Right.
So I'm not saying that there's not. I mean, here's what I always say about living the Christian life anyway. The minute you start, you're automatically going to fail because Jesus is your model to follow.
Right.
I mean, I get that, okay? Because I am a poor imitation of Jesus some days. And I understand that. And I can respect that. But why is there so much, is it, why is there so much roughness and so much of that part of the culture that you were talking about in a culture that really wants the ideals and the goodness and all that kind of good stuff? Where's that conflict come from?
Well, human nature. We've been battling our entire recorded history and probably before that. But a lot of it comes down to, well, this is my brother. He wears the same uniform I wear, the same colors that I wear. Somebody disrespects him, well, they're all going to jump in like a big brotherhood would. If you pick on the little brother, all the big brothers are going to jump in. And then a scuffle or a fight breaks out. And that's what the news focuses on. That's what people see.
Well, we do, fighting. And we all do that to some degree,
right.
Because, that's what Catholics stick together and Baptists stick together and Methodists stick together. I get that part, that we all kind of,
Bikers
connect that
focus
way.
very intensely on things. They're looking, like, as a Christian minister and being a biker, I have to be I'm not being false, but I have to be on top of my game. If I say I'm going to do something, I have to do that thing. And if I make a mistake and fall, or if they see me doing something that they would consider unchristian-like, they have to see me repent. They have to see me be sorrowful for it. Bikers watch everything through a fine microscope, and they're very intent on making sure that you are who you say you are. And so people who don't respect them, who treat them in ways that they don't see as respect, yeah, they get upset. They think you've dishonored them. If you dishonor somebody, it's like being attacked. You fight back. And a lot of bikers, like I say, have lived a rougher lifestyle, so they're more like, it's like a wound, you know. They lived a harsh lifestyle. They're kind of sore from being beaten up and being judged, whatever. And you come and you poke at them, even in the best of intentions, you know, like a lot of Christians. And I'm not saying Christians are good or bad, but we're all people. And some Christians will talk about fire and brimstone and hell and damnation. Well, that feels like you're attacking me. And rather than fight back with words, a biker fights back with his hands. They were very brutally honest and blunt people. Okay. You know, and they would rather see an action than a word, which is why I say, if you go through the process of honoring them properly before you talk to them, they'll listen to you because you're showing them the respect they need.
Yeah,
then you can talk, right? And so, being a Christian minister to those kind of bikers, or even now, it's just a matter of being very truthful, very transparent, no guile, no facade. They can't stand hypocrites.
Right.
You know, as long as you're honest and true and respectful, you'll get through. You know, and as far as like the bad stuff goes, people have always focused on the bad. Like you said, the Catholic Church gets a bad rap for many issues.
Oh Lord,
which we don't even talk about. But that's a small percentage of the Catholic body.
Sure, and I get that, and I
the
agree
bikers
with
you
that.
see fighting or shooting each other, that's a small percentage of the whole biker community.
Yeah.
So, but that's what us as people focus on. We don't focus on the good, we focus on the scary.
Well, you know, and again, like any of us, I mean, you know, we always like it when the kudos are coming our way because of what one of our wicked stepbrothers has done. But when one of, you know, one of our wicked stepsisters does something, you know, bad, then we're kind of like, oh, you know, look at them, look at they're messing up again. And that's, you are absolutely right that that's human nature. And we do that stuff with each other all the time. And again, I agree with you that it's not fair. But I also will agree with you that integrity and example and all those things are all of our best ways to lead with preaching and proclaiming the gospel. I mean, you know, integrity really does it more than anything else. And that's what's going to win in the long run, right. Even when we have one of those black eyes here or there or whatever. Well,
and, you know, Jesus said, you know, they will know you are my disciples by how you love each other. Well, a biker sees love not as a word. They see it as the handshake, as the greeting, as the introduction. They see it, the love, through the respect that you give them.
Yeah.
So that's how they'll know you're a Christian, how they'll let you talk to them, if you love them in the way that they love.
And I think that's learning how to speak somebody's language is, you know, is very important.
That's what it is.
I mean, in
any
language. And I'm going to say that about any mission field. How are you going to go into a foreign country if you don't speak the language? How are you going to talk to youth culture if you don't speak the language? Right. Again, how are you going to talk to, and I mean, and that's why, I mean, I really can't say that I've really tried all that much, but how am I going to speak to a biker if I don't learn the language? I mean, how do I do that? And you can't in some ways.
Patience and openness, no judgment. No one wants to be judged. But people see the dirty side, they see the violent side, and I think that is indicative of the entire culture, and it's really not.
Yeah. And again, I mean, you know, I'm enjoying the conversation because, I mean, you know, there's some things about the culture that I never put together, that whole chivalry and all that. I never connected that until just now when we're talking about it, and I'm going, this is interesting in terms of some of that.
A lot of it is old-fashioned, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot about the culture that I believe needs to change to fit in better, but it is what it is.
Sure. And again, we all of us, for better or worse, wind up being from where we're from. And that's, you know, and again, that's usually a blessing and a curse all at the same time.
A lot of bikers are very patriotic. Most of them are in the military, ex-military, you know, so that's another reason you might see them getting rowdy, is if someone disrespects the country, disrespects the flag or something like that. You know, bikers are very proud people. And pride, I know, comes before the fall. But they're very proud people, and that's what you have to remember. You never want to insult them, even in the most little way.
Yeah. Well, and again, I just stop and think about all the different things you're saying, and then I stop and think about, hanging around with a bunch of priests, and I'm like, yeah, well, some of those same things are there. Some of those things are there. So what's the thing that you're most proud of as a motorcycle member or minister? Yeah.
I consider myself a motorcycle minister. I'm proud of the good deeds that we do with the people that are most overlooked. The indigenous
people,
right? The people on the streets, the people who are neglected because they're dirty, or they look funny, or they don't fit into normal society. I like most is reaching those people. I like the kids. Hey, look, I got a biker, and they wave at you. I mean, it's almost like being Santa Claus when you're a biker.
Yeah.
You just bring good happiness to so many people that are overlooked by so many other people. And sure, it's a small slice of society, but it's a much needed ministry.
Well, I appreciate you coming in and talking about with you today. We're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute to wrap up. Again, Bo Westley talking about motorcycle ministry. Thanks for being here this morning.
Thank you.
When they discovered there was no hospital, the Sisters of Mercy built one, as they had so many times before, offering healing and hope on the edge of the frontier. Mercy continues to answer the same call to bring care wherever you or your child need it most. Mercy, in every era, your life is our life's work. Learn why we serve at mercy.net/legacy. In Ireland, the first Sisters of Mercy were called the Walking Sisters because every day they went out in search of women and children who needed healing or help. Mercy continues to answer the same call, dedicated to the health of every woman who comes to us for care. Mercy, in every era, your life is our life's work. Learn why we serve at mercy.net/legacy.
Well, again, thanks for joining us for another Sunday morning of Faith in Our Hometown. We're really glad that you choose to spend some of your Sunday morning with us. I'm always kind of amazed that people are like watching this show at these hours out of a Sunday morning. My guest this morning was Bo Westley, talking about motorcycle ministry. And the only thing I'm going to tell you that I hope that you got to see the end of that last section, but when Bo was talking about all the different groups and what he's proud of and what they, in so many ways, that ministry tries to do, it was like listening to me about the groups of people that Jesus would hang out with. I mean, he would run around and he'd go to the people who were on the edges of society. He would go to the ones who were considered unclean by everybody else. He would go for the ones who were vulnerable and the ones who were falling through the cracks. And that, to me, is one of those things that all of our communities, Christian or not, need to learn how to do, is to look for all of our brothers and sisters that are falling through the cracks and create communities where they can belong. Join us next week for Faith in Our Hometown. I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday. God bless.
Thanks for watching. Faith in Our Hometown can be seen Sunday mornings at 6:30 and 9 a.m. on KSN. Brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.